I love that towards not even really, this is something that's not covered super in the documentary, covered a lot because it's just implied, but your trajectory started like pretty political, like pretty much explicitly political. And as time's gone on, it's almost like just leaning into more absurdity.
Mm.
And is that do you find that's better for your mental health, or do you find that's better for like just the people around you? Because I know that it's very easy to get passionate and like deeply involved in politics, and I think it's a good thing to do it, but it also can be really brutal on your relationships.
Yeah, I think well, when I was a kid, I was associated with the Revolutionary Communist Youth Brigade and the Revolutionary Communist Party, so I was inherently political at a very young age, and that showed heavily in my first band struggle. But I started realizing that it was alienating to people, even people that are on the same political spectrum as me. They would just be like, "Yeah, I fucking hate all cops. I don't need to hear about it again," you know. And so you kind of figure out. I started figuring out ways to just be political or act political without like saying it again. And a lot of those cues were taken from bands like Fugazi or something, where you're like sort of figuring out like simple things like the way you manufacture merchandise, or the how you spend your own money in your own life. Like those are political motives, without being like political, you know. And so I think that was like an interesting thing for me to kind of consider throughout time. And now, I mean, I really do feel like everything I do is political in a sense. I think the personal is the political, the way you live your life is very political, and so on and so forth. So but yeah, it's a fucked up world, and it's a fucked up time every time, I feel like. And you're like, this is jarring, like everybody's on this wants to argue, especially with social media.
Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah, it's I don't know how to answer the question, but I definitely have like found ways to like navigate, um to be vocal, and to also not just end up getting bombarded with like shit online that fucking wears you down,
Sure.
and waste your time, you know.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to be. It sucks that like the more passionate we get, sometimes I guess like, and maybe it's similar to the saying like, hey, the more angry someone is, the more likely they are to make a mistake. But it's like on the internet, we get so angry so quickly with these like simplified statements that we just fire it right back, and it's basically just like a political tragedy in general. Like America is, or the United States is becoming this fucking joke, and it has been for so long, but um now it's not funny. It hasn't been funny for a long time, but like growing
Yeah.
up I was like, I guess my parents think this is funny or okay, and it's just not. So yeah, fun times to be alive. But it's documentaries like that, music like yours, that keeps us, people like me not feeling too crazy. So not necessarily changing the subject, but something that comes up towards the end of the documentary that I thought was kind of funny is someone mentions that you're into yoga.
Hmm.
And that is a fun, awesome thing that I wasn't actually going to ask you about. But the way that it was presented, in addition to your friendship with Lucian Greaves, I wanted to ask just like, do you appreciate spirituality in your general daily life?
That's a tricky word, and I still
It
struggle
is.
with it. Yeah, my yoga practice, which is which is daily, really is more about my intention is like for like a physical growth, or physical transition, I guess, into like just getting older and kind of being able to function as a human being. But I also noticed after doing yoga for 10 or 15 years that I do have the mental changes happening in my brain, but not really necessarily spirituality, because I do cringe every time when the
Sure.
yoga instructor's like, "Can we wish peace on every living creature?" And I'm like, absolutely no. Like, there's no fucking way I can do that. And I immediately go to like the priests that are rapists, or the fucking racist cops that are killing people. So I'm like, no, I can't wish peace on everybody. Am I
Right.
not yogi? I don't know. At least I'm comprehending that, and I think maybe someone else has the luxury to do that, but I don't have the luxury to wish peace. Maybe that's not a luxury, actually. I don't know. Either way, I can't do it. So I do struggle with the spirituality aspect of yoga.
Sure.
And then I'm always like, people are like oming, and I'm like, you guys are fucking oming in the most jacked up tones. Like, this is really weird. And then I'm like, is this mathcore? I don't know. I don't
Wow. I mean, it's probably
know.
not mathcore, but I mean, it can certainly be sampled into mathcore.
Yeah. No, I was joking, like, because I was going to say the math core element of the technical timing of it. Also,
Oh
the
my.
thing that, the thing that people don't think about are tones. I feel like that's an important part to strange art and strange music, is the tonality and the discordant sounds. That's also equated to math rock or math core as well.
That makes sense. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it now. That's
But the
funny.
yoga thing, yeah, I mean, it's a big deal for me. I do it all the time. I do it on tour, and sometimes with my bandmates. Um, I don't know. It helps me. It helps me like function. It helps me be creative. It helps me fucking live in this world that we live in.
Yeah, I understand. I do it off and on because I definitely love the physical benefits. It doesn't take very much practice to feel like, oh man, my back does not hurt today, as opposed to the last 5 years of back pain. It doesn't take that much if it's just like kind of basic stuff like that. So it's a great practice for sure. Um, and then I guess you kind of have already answered this last one here over the last couple questions, but it's I kind of just noted throughout the documentary, throughout the discography, throughout really most of what we know about you, it seems like resistance is still very important. Even especially in a world where like obviously injustice is kind of the norm now. Um, do you see music as an important place to express resistance or at least escape the grind of life, or are there other mediums that are like important to you?
I think okay. So yeah, there are definitely other mediums. I mean, that could be all kinds of shit for people, but for me, I feel like music, maybe the most effective way of communicating beyond language. And usually like a band or a song or an album or something can go beyond genres, or beyond um, I don't know, age brackets or class, whatever. It can extend beyond all the limitations that a lot of things might have. I don't know, in modern times, or any
Sure.
times, whatever. So yeah, I do think I think that it is a form of protest for some people. Others, it's not. We get what we get from it, and it just depends on person to person, I suppose.
Yeah. So it's probably more important to like if you feel like you should be a musician and that's your act of like getting through it, you should just do it that way. It's not necessarily that you think music is like the tool for everyone.
No, it's not for everyone. I mean, even if you're a musician, that tool might not be the same tool for one person to the next.
Right. Yeah,
There's a lot
or
of
they might not be very good at it. Could still be a tool. That's one. I don't know. It's a tragedy. Every once in a while, you meet someone that's like so passionate about the thing they do, and you're like, "Let me hear it," and you're like, "Fuck, what?" That does happen.
yeah.